Welcome back to our intermediate financial accounting class. Over the last few segments, we've been slowly building a statement of cash flow. We took some time to talk about the statement of cash flow conceptually and why it's important and how it's different and what we're changing from the simplified version we've done in the past. But most of what we've been doing is building cash flows. And although it's taken us a lot of time, it's provided us with a lot of super good information. We've reviewed most of what we've done in intermediate accounting. We've gone through the logic of a lot of FASB's changes and their processes. We've gone through how cash flow actually works and how each of these different transactions affect the balance sheets. And then we pulled it all together to make sure that it flows and makes sense and matches up with our earlier numbers. It's been great to see it all come together. And now that we've got all the worksheets done and everything pulled together, we're really basically done with the process. All that we have left is to take the information from these worksheets that we created and put it into a formal statement of cash flows. And you should have a template for your formal statement of cash flows on the Excel file that I provided for you. I'm going to make mine right off here to the right of the worksheets that I created in our last section. So you can see that I've already got a heading all set up and ready to go. What I need to do now is build my statement of cash flows. Since we haven't done it before, we're going to do a direct style, and then we'll do the reconciliation of net income to cash flow from operations, which is required as a supplementary disclosure for a direct style, but also looks exactly like the indirect style should look. So it's going to provide us with the best of both worlds here. Doing a direct style lets us actually practice both. So let's start out with our operating activities. And in a direct style, we're just going to use these numbers right over here. So cash received from customers, cash received from equity securities. I'm not going to type them anymore. I'm going to copy them. I hope that's okay. Copy and paste. Get rid of the formats here in a minute because I want my statement of cash flows to look formal. So I'll do my copying and my pasting, and then I will go back through and I will get rid of the fill, and I'll get rid of any lines that are copied over. And then I'm going to go get the numbers. So let's see. Pulling the numbers right from my calculations in my worksheet. Now, let's see, I usually put an underline in here, and right here I'm going to sum up all of my operating activities. And there's that 1,072,000 that matches up. That's just what we want. We're going to call that cash flows from operating activities. And let's see, we'll move that over. And I'm going to bold these two just so they stand out a little bit better. You'll also see this called cash flow from operations, or CFO. Usually CFO is the abbreviation we use in an analysis, but technically you can call it that too, I suppose. Investing activities will come next. And this time I really can copy and paste. I'm going to copy all of these and just change the font back to black. And I'm going to link, and then again, I'm going to sum this up. Equals the sum of these 5 numbers, and we'll make it bold. There's my cash flow from investing activities, and again, I just make sure that it balances up. Now, if you want to type these out, if you want to link them, however you want to copy them over, but really, once you've got the worksheets, you're just putting the numbers into the financial statements. This is not the hard part. This is just plug and chug. Again, we'll do the same exact thing over here. My financing activities. And there we go. I make sure again that the 1535 matches the 1535 down here. That's just what I want. And I'm finished with now my 3 sections of my statement of cash flows. So the last part of doing a statement of cash flow, once you've got all your numbers to match up with your worksheets, is to do the last 3 lines. And this is where a lot of students get mixed up. They want to stop with the first of the summary lines. The first line is the net change in cash. And to get that number, I sum up operating, investing, and financing. And that's that 599 that was my plug figure. That's what I've been using since step 1 as the goal, as the target. But it's just that easy first number that we use to make sure we haven't missed anything. A statement of cash flows has to balance with numbers in the balance sheet, which means we have to go on. We're going to report beginning cash balance, January 1 of year 6. I'm going to get that from my balance sheet, $2,850,000. Then I'm going to report an ending cash balance, December 31, year 6. And that's going to be the sum of these 2 numbers. And my final check, the official check, what's built into GAAP, is that this number, this $2,251,000, will match this number right here. And it does. $2,251,000, $2,251,000, which means I can put in my double underline. And that's what shows the world that it balances and everything's fine and I've done it correctly. Now, technically, that's the end of a statement of cash flows as far as the actual cash information goes. But remember that FASB has asked us to include non-cash transactions, significant non-cash transactions, and we had 3 of those. So let's take a look at our step 3 numbers and find these 3 non-cash transactions that we need to put into our statement of cash flows. So let's see, we put cash effect none on those. So here's the first one. It was the conversion of some bonds for common stock. Let's see, it was $1.5 million was the amount. So let's put that into our statement of cash flows. These are significant non-cash investing and financing activities. Conversion of bonds payable, and it was $1.5 million. That's one of the 3. The next one is right here. It's the stock dividend. No cash was involved because it was a stock dividend, so we gave them stock instead of cash. Again, a $1.5 million change. Issuance of a 50% stock dividend. Also $1.5 million. Now there's one more, and this one's not as clearly marked as the others, but let's take a look. It's a little further down. And as we scroll through, you probably notice none of these others say non-cash. Everything else has a cash balance. But right here is our last non-cash event. I purchased land for $648,000, but I didn't pay them any cash. I paid them $365 on all of my capital leases, and I show that payment, but the original purchase of the land using a lease is a significant non-cash event. So this 648 is the other event or activity. Purchase of PP&E using a lease, and it was $648,000. And that's the last of our significant non-cash transactions. And with those done, our statement of cash flows is finished. We're not finished with the process yet, though. We still have one more thing we need to do. So as good as this feels, you can't stop here. If you stop here with the direct style statement of cash flows, you're not following GAAP, because under GAAP, because of SEC pressure, you also need to include a reconciliation of net income to cash flow from operations, which, lucky for us as we're trying to practice, also looks exactly like the cash flow from operations section in an indirect style statement of cash flows. So in our next segment, we're going to build that last disclosure, and that's finally going to finish our full-blown statement of cash flows. I'll see you then.